Very good afternoon, everybody. I hope the lunch was personalized and you got your pick. I mean, when it comes to personalization, and I was having a conversation with the panelist here, that look at Netflix, 260 million client base and the kind of things they can do to your homepage, depending on your viewing behavior, depending on time of the day. They can actually look at artwork, personalization to that extent. Or you talk about Spotify wrapped for the year, depending on your music preferences and everything, right? Or talk about Amazon dynamic product recommendations. And then my discussion was that are these tech wins or these are trust wins? As long as you kind of respect the customer journey and keep doing stuff for their benefit, I think it's a win-win for all. But how is it for banking, broking, fintech, payment banks as such? So is it like trickier for them? Or possibly what is personalization mean for your respective business? So let's start with that question, what does personalization mean for your respective business? And do you think it is more trickier in your business as compared to, say, a Netflix, Spotify, or Amazon? So starting from Vipul.
So thank you, Prabhakar. See, personalization for us is giving what customer wants, right? It's a complex business. We are here to serve customers on their needs, and personalization helps us identify what is the right thing to serve customer, right? And I'd say from our point of view, personalization is very critical. So we are a full service broker. We sell multiple products. And it's very important to understand the customer and pitch the right product to the customer. There are 100 options out there. They can always go to any other broker. And if I pitch a wrong product, then they will always have option to go to someone else, right? So we are known for our advisory, and if you don't advise the right product to personalization, then we are not doing the right job. So I would say for us, it's very critical. I would not say it's more complex than Netflix, but it becomes very critical in our business.
Got that. Thanks, people. Prashant? Payment bank, you keep all the money. So,
payments bank don't keep the money. We are in the liability business. So I don't know how many people know Fino as a brand. How many people knows Fino? Wow, that's still good percentage. Thank you. So I do this exercise because I know that Fino, we are really Bharat. So we have a distribution channel that across India, which is, we are a lot more known in the tier 4, tier 5, in the eastern UP or Champaran. If you go to a hamlet, you ask for Fino, there would be perhaps 90% people would be knowing what Fino is, all right. So that's our business. So to address the personalization in the banking and to the target that we, or audience that we serve, it's really tricky. So our personalization happens at the back end in the systems. So for example, if there is a certain transaction train that we see in your account, all right, we infer the data and we do personalization without telling customer that it's personalized only for you. I hope that makes clear. A little jargon, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, Prashant, and very important point, like the other thing Prashant was telling me during lunch, that personalization in vernacular, and we will talk about it in the panel later in the day. But let's come to our friend Suresh.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, what's your take?
So our take on personalization is all about the customer and consumer behavior. And there's a reason why I say that is that every organization has got a limited number of products that we sell. So let's say if I have 5 products, I can't be doing, hey, buy product 1, product 2, product 3. That's really not personalization. So in fact, the exact contra is what is personalization, which is all of us, for example, might buy the same product. Let's say we all buy a red sports car, But the reasons that each one of us buy will be very, very different. One might buy because it's a childhood dream, the another one might buy because it's a hat tip to the Formula One organization that the one cheers for. Another one might buy just to post it on Instagram, and another one might buy to make the neighbors jealous. So identifying each one of these reasons, aspirations, dreams, and then changing my message so as to emotionally connect with the customer is what I believe is personalization.
Right. So it's more of the emotional connect, not just giving information or what they're exactly looking for.
Yeah, it is rarely about the product actually.
Yeah, yeah. So taking the entire thing, interaction to the next level. So what about you, Aditya? What is your take on this topic?
So I think personalization is about building trust, especially in financial services. And I've been in other industries before where, the lack of trust, the fallout is different for different sectors. For example, Amazon didn't recommend the right product for you. What happens? You're anyway going to go there and buy what you want to. But if your financial services provider recommended a wrong product to you and it didn't work out for you, you're never going to go back to them. So in that context, and I think also taking cues from whatever my co-panelists spoke about, it is important that you keep that thing in mind, saying how do you actually build trust through this, and over a period of time. And I think we've seen enough and more data where you say if you trust a brand, you tend to go back to them and you do more business with them. So for us, I think apart from all of the basics that we spoke about, personalization is about building trust and retaining that trust over a period of time. Yeah, and how you do it with data and with MarTech stacks, etc., is more logistics. But I think the essence of the conversation for us is saying how do you build trust.
No, I like the way the panelists are trying to say that we are more responsible as financial services firms. So be rest assured, we take your data seriously and personalization seriously. And so what's your take, Vipul?
So actually, I'll just talk a little differently. So personalization is not a new thing. It's just a new jargon that has now come in the market. Over all years, marketing is all about connecting with the customer, adding value to the customer, understanding their needs. We are just doing the same thing today also, which we were doing 20 years, 50 years back. The only difference is that we didn't have real-time data at that time. We have the context of data now. And second, our understanding about consumers and their behavior has also evolved over a period of time. And as businesses, we have become more responsible. Like what Aditya was talking about, building trust. I don't think this would have been a consideration factor a few years back or 20 years back. But now the idea is that we have so much of data, we have so much of understanding of the customer. How do you essentially, in the right way, reach out to the customer and add value to him, basis his or her context? That's what is the true essence of personalization.
Interesting. So the panel is saying that financial services, it's about trust, it's about getting the emotions right, or getting the vernacular, kind of interactions right. Now that's great. Now let's come to something more technical than this in terms of how do you do it. So Vipul, your firm is offering a lot of products and services. So how do you look at data in real time, to ensure that all touch points you are providing the right, products, advisory in the context? So can you talk more about the nuts and bolts behind that?
Right. So see, our touch points extend beyond the digital touch points. So we have a large RM and advisory physical team sitting in Pan India. So we have now started pushing all the recommendations and customer personalization in the platforms which are used by RMs and advisors. So they can give very tailored recommendations to their customers. For example, we as a research house, we publish almost 100 research calls every day. Now, not all the calls are relevant to every customer. Now, we have started tagging which are the relevant specific research calls to a customer basis their trading pattern, their past history based on their portfolio, and then the advisor can only discuss on those 2 or 3 specific recommendations that which customer is likely to act on instead of wasting time on unnecessary discussions. So So that is something which is giving us very good results. Similarly, we started pushing a lot of cross-sell inputs based again on user patterns to the advisors and RMs, which are used for better engagement and cross-selling to the customers. Now for real-time interactions, we have started integrating a CDP. So all the interactions are going into a same cloud where we are creating a unified profile. So we can bind all the physical and digital transactions and transmit the information to all the platforms at same time. Right? So that will enhance the experience of customer digitally also, and the customer is likely to get the same experience from a physical touch point as well.
Yeah, great. So, Prashant, coming to you, I mean, you talked about the Fino Payment Bank, the scope being from Champaran to Chandeli, right? And, I mean, diverse customer segments, accessibility being an issue. And when you talk about personalization, rich data, it's much easier in a 4G, 5G kind of context. How do you do it in a lower bandwidth and in the cultural context that you deal with, given the diverse customer segments you have?
So it's still unresolved issue. I am still learning those. Okay. So what has happened in the customer base, as everybody knows that India and how diverse India is. Every 100 kilometers your dialect change, every 200 kilometers the state change perhaps. Yeah. Now keeping up with that and offering the expectations and aspirations of the people. Now I have a banking product which is your savings account. Now you know how commoditized that product is. Savings account is a savings account is a savings account. Simple. You move, whether you put the Fino or ICICI or maybe HSBCs of the world, savings account remains savings account. Few features here and there. So how do we market such a commoditized product in a highly competitive environment? And how do we because that's where our journey makes all the difference. And how the journey and the convenience that matters. Because if you look at your own journey, even in Mumbai or any other metros, typically you will choose a bank either given by your company or your business or your neighborhood bank. All right. So these are the three things that you would look at it. Similarly, our business model allows us to offer banking services to every nook and corner through the merchant network that we have. We have about more than 1 million merchants, which is perhaps your mobile wala next door, mobile shop or kirana shop is your banker. What are the services that you can do? Typically, you need to withdraw money, you need to deposit money, you need to update maybe a passbook for some reason. These are the three services. Now, all those three services, you can get it to the neighborhood kirana stores. And guess what? You can go at 11 o'clock in the night, you can go 7 o'clock on Diwali day, for example. It's not closed. So that neighborhood banking, anytime, anywhere banking, that is the concept behind this. And that itself is a physical personalization, what I would call it as. So I'm a biker, so recently I went to Northeast, One of the guy from Bombay, he has a factory in Rabale, if you know Rabale where it is. Okay, the guy asked a question, Assam mein we met up and we said that, he's saying, was cash carry karna padega. I said, kyun? Nahi, wahan pe ATM milega, nahi milega, pata nahi. Okay, but trust me, there is something called micro ATM. Okay, where you don't need even the ATM card or a debit card. All you need your thumb. And through your Aadhaar, you can withdraw 10,000 up to 10,000 at every nook and corner of this country. And that I call it as a true personalization. How does it happen? And everything banking services follows. To enable that, to communicate with the customer and to make his journey seamless, I'm sorry, I just digress a little bit to give you the context in the environment that we operate in. Okay. So to create that journeys to the entire spectrum of those, what do we call, I'm not going to say lower strata, but a rural India. Okay. So what we do basically, we create vernacular communications across the languages. So we work with about 11 languages currently. Okay, 7 being primary and 4 on a need basis, not much of a focus. 7 are primary. So those 7 languages, so if you look at our entire communication base, whether it's a WhatsApp, SMS, or these are the 2 primary channels, and even our IVR or the WhatsApp bot or whatever we have, those works across 7 languages. Are we there yet? Are we giving 100% perfect experience to the customer? No, not yet. Unfortunately, we are still learning and we are still improving on those. Okay. However, that personalization stage, what we are trying to do is not only limited to the communication, कि just translate कर दिया और यहाँ पे डाल दिया. And it's not an AI based translation, trust me. AI is not yet there. It's not over 100%, you know. It's there, but about 60-70% accuracy मिलता है, you know. So we still use the manual efforts in those.
Yeah, so Prashant is saying a lot of work needs to be done. So a lot of scope for all the businesses in the room, you know. And he was talking about how microcredit helps. You have to carry your thumb along. And that reminded me of a social media content where ATM chip can be fitted in the nail art. So that's a broad idea to the banks. Okay. Now, Suresh, as a digital banking product, you have so many recommendations to do, so many user journeys to take care of. Let's talk about data analytics, particularly scale and scope, you know, to the business of your size. You know, how do you handle that?
Okay. More than analytics, I mean, there is fortunately being a bank and being the bank of the size of ICICI Bank, data is immense. Data is, the amount of data that is there is like, say, lots of petabytes, I mean, if I were to kind of quantify it. But it's not about that. I think it's mostly about how do we utilize that data, for which there has to be an extremely strong culture of using data that has to be driven in. And when I say culture of data, what I mean is every decision that needs to be taken has to be rooted in data. I mean, if you want to design something, let data guide you. If you want to decommission something, let data be the guiding star. Or whenever in doubt in general, just refer to data. If we start doing that, then, and even democratize to a certain extent, in the sense that what I find is all the data platforms or all the martech platforms are utilized by a very, very few select people. I mean, it is almost considered as a superpower if you have a login ID to that martech engine. We need to really democratize that. We need to really spread it across the organization. If we can do that, I am sure there are a lot of ideas that will come back as to how do we capture data, what more attributes needed to be captured. And if, like I mentioned earlier, if personalization is all about understanding consumer behavior, the residue of that consumer behavior lies as a footprint or an attribute in the data platform. So it's all linked. So start with the consumer and end in data, that will lead to personalization itself.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, the saying goes, and this is a very old saying, that you know, we trust in God, but rest of you need to bring data, you know, and that's how it is. And it is as simple as that. I think all the tools which are there, including like Mo Engage and many tools which are there, I think they're all allowing us to kind of look at data at a much bigger scale, much more objectively, and in a much more democratic fashion. Otherwise, the basics remain the same. So now, Aditya, coming to you, like, let's talk about hyper personalization a bit. In terms of leveraging data and technology. So in your firm, what kind of strategies have you adopted for hyper personalization, and any key learnings you want to share with the audience here?
Sure, I could actually tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
But,
not here, not in public, huh?
Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it in a more generic sense. So in terms of hyper personalization, the first thing we've tried to do is de-hyphenate hyper and personalization. Because hyper has a very negative connotation to it. We are saying relevant personalization, which will help us drive favorable outcomes for the business, right? And how do you do that? Like I mentioned, trust is one big factor that we keep looking at. And we are essentially looking to utilize the data that we have to sort of match customer financial goals that they might have. And actually over the sales process, if you were to look at it, and the conversations that your call center executives might be having with the customer, you have a lot of data to actually understand where it is that the customer wants to be at. So the way we look at it is, how do you put this together? How do you put all the tools that you have at your disposal together to help them achieve that goal? Just to sort of give you an example, there have been a lot of ups and downs in the market, courtesy Mr. Trump, and a bunch of other things that have happened. Now, if you were to just push out a message saying, hey, you know what, the markets are falling, what is the person supposed to do, right? I mean, we have all these models that help us split customers by persona. We have tools that help us orchestrate responses across multiple channels to the customer at different points in time. How do you put this together? What would you say? Say you want to get them to, buy more SIPs when the markets go down, for example. And now, how are you going to message that to a risk-averse customer versus a person who's willing to actually, go all in and see if, there are any upsides to that particular situation? So our learning from this has essentially been to, use a little more empathy when we actually, go out and communicate to the customer. I'll tell you how. I want to sell you MFSIPs, but depending on your persona, depending in the context in which I'm speaking to you, I'm going to try and figure what's the best way to land this message with you. I think some of us spoke about AI already, and the one thing that AI doesn't really factor in till you've put it in its prompt, and even after you put it in the prompt, it doesn't do so, is understanding the context of the person you're speaking to. All right? So our learning very, very, clearly has been always try and think about end customer context before you actually, go out and, because strategies are a dime a dozen, and I think a lot of us have experimented and learned on what works, what doesn't. This, I think, is the layer that sort of helps, move that needle forward. We've seen some good results also. For example, I can't speak specifically for the organization that I am in right now, but across my experiences, I have seen lesser unsubscribe rates on emailers, for example. Nowadays, we say that it's, fairly dead channel and you don't see conversions happening directly from it. But imagine being ruling out one way to reach out to the customer. WhatsApp. Now, you don't even land 100% of the time, right? When you send out WhatsApps to people, you'll say Meta only sent it to, a very small number of people. So over a period of time, you're trying to make sure all of the ways in which you're trying to reach out to people are relevant. The messaging that you do is in the context of the customer, and I think you look at business outcomes from that.
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about during lunch also, about the feedback loops. How do you keep the customer empathy? Because many a times, many of this data of this nature are run by machine, after doing the few test pilot and all. But how do you keep the feedback loop on and getting the right context, message delivery, etc., etc. So that is important. Now, coming to Nishant, the business you are in has multiple segments, and there's a multitude of things that can be kind of communicated for increasing business. Of course, we were joking about that. Okay, now tell me what kind of key segmentation strategies your firm follows, and also how do you do personalization at scale in your firm?
Okay. So what we have done is we have a couple of good backbone systems which help us codify our data to make it automated. And that is where the power comes. The second part is on segmentation. So what happens is you have static segmentation data. You know the person's age, you know the person's location, and the kind of product they are subscribed to, and from where they have opened the account. You know the channels they have come through. So these are all the static data points that you collect. The second part is where are they in the life cycle with you? So are they new users? Are they vintage users? what was the kind of interaction history they had with you. So the behavioral profile, and in broking, it becomes even more important to understand their trading styles. And within trading, again, you have multiple complexities which come. You have cash segment, you have option segment. Within cash, you have someone who is an investor, someone who is a short-term trader. Within short-term trader, again, if I go and break it up, you will find someone who does buy today, sell tomorrow, which is BTST in our parlance. Someone who is a swing trader, someone who is a positional trader. So you have all these kind of trading styles that you need to figure out at a customer level. And we create some n number of micro segments, so to say, to identify what is the trading style, their static variables. The third part is what is their relationship status with us. For a setting like broking, just to give you an understanding, it's a non-contractual setting with the customer, which means that the customer can leave me at any point in time without informing me. So I will never know whether my relationship is live with the customer or not. So how do you manage in such situations? So you have to use probabilistic models. There are no deterministic models that if I do something, it will work out. So use probabilistic models, and you have basics that you can use to get cues. For example, you can do your basic RF segmentation, which is recency and frequency, which tells you which customers are at risk, which customers are your champions, which customers are your loyalists. Now, all of this, when you start bringing together, the customer's context emerges. So there is a BTST guy who is supposed to trade more frequently. He hasn't traded for some time. What was their past interaction? They were trying to place an order, or there was a customer service ticket that they had raised, and there was an issue with it, and because of it they had a bad experience, and now they don't want to trade with me. So what do? You call them, or you send out a message and try to bring that customer back, for example. You can go multiple times like this and identify scenarios. I was just explaining that we call them as killer scenarios, which is these scenarios kill your customers by identifying each and every one. And it takes manual task to identify the small things where the customers are getting lost. But identifying and plugging those small gaps is where you start becoming more relevant to the customer and more contextual to the customer.
Right. That's very interesting. So Suresh, this question is to you. I mean, given the nature of diverse banking products, I mean, there would be a lot of fragmented customer data. So how do you carry out the identity resolution so that your personalization efforts are very effective? Like, how do you manage that in your firm?
Yeah, the first part is why is data fragmented? Data is data at the end of the day. Data gets fragmented because we collect it on various platforms. There's some database lying in some part of the system, another database lying somewhere else. So I think the first step towards harmonizing this data or getting this data into a useful form is to get it onto a singular platform and get the identity right of the customer. So whatever you decide, I mean, there's no decision that there's nothing wrong or right here. We had just take a decision and say that okay, this decision will lead us to an X amount of fidelity. So once you do these two things, and there are so many employees using it, the team members using this data continuously, it autocorrect. What I've noticed is you'll always start at a not so optimal data set. It will be fragmented, broken, like you said. But the moment you start using it, it starts getting auto-corrected. I mean, it could be simplest of databases, like say PIN code to a city and state. So can there be a difference? I mean, common sense tells us that there cannot be. How can it be different? I mean, one PIN code has got one city and another state. But then the number of times states have changed, the number of times the names of cities have changed. It can vary. But all these are solvable if they are on one platform and employees use them very, very frequently. So that's what drives data fidelity, and you can solve the fragmentation there.
Got that. So the last 1 minute on the screen available with us. So this is rapid fire. What has been the most shocking personalization that you have encountered as a client, and what did you learn from it? Very fast. Anybody can start. If nobody start, then I have to ask Vipul to go first.
So I think somewhere Instagram is personalizing a lot. I think we were discussing pre-conversation. So I think many times what I have discussed with someone over a WhatsApp or a call sometimes reflects next day on Instagram. So it's sometimes feels very intruding and shocking also at the same time.
Okay, got that. Okay, Prashant.
So I think many a times still, I'm not sure why, but I'm still addressed many a times by reputed companies as Mr. Saroj. Saroj is my wife's name, by the way.
So wife comes first. That was your learning, right? Okay. Yeah, Suresh.
Similar, but a lot of times what happens is
Ask the French president, by the way. Huh?
he got slapped, right?
Yes, Suresh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, when there's a joint account, I mean, I think various banks, various organizations follow different nomenclature. Some people place a slash, it's like wife over husband kind of thing. Or some people join the two, concatenate the two names, so it will be like Suresh Archana kind of thing. And some banks use even joint. So they will say Suresh Archana joint. Then I don't know whether somebody is smoking something or not.
Got it. Joined by the hip. Yeah, go ahead, Aditya.
Yeah, so I think it isn't shocking really, but it's, I sometimes get messages from one of the banks in Kannada. Because I was in Bangalore at one point in time, okay, and I opened an account from Bangalore. The bank is sending me messages. The bank has called me through its call centers in Mumbai, okay? They know I've shifted locations. But they've just gone by the pin code of the home branch, and they keep sending me stuff in Kannada. There might be something super relevant, okay? But here's the thing, I don't even have a chance to know.
Kannada Gotilla. You know, some
Kannada
Kannadigan employee being activist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Nishant.
This is a little generic, but sometimes, and I don't know, is this just an intuition or what, but sometimes you're talking about some XYZ thing, let's say some travel plan, and suddenly my Google, Insta feeds have started showing up. Sometimes, I don't know, they listen to us, what
Beep, beep, beep,
they
beep.
do, but yes, I have gotten scared for this thing.
Yeah, thanks a ton, the panelists and the audience. I mean, personalization is about trust for financial services. It's simple. It's about empathy. And it's about like looking at data. Vernacular personalization is still to be solved. So a lot of insights from the panelists here. And thanks for being a patient audience. Thank you.